And get started. Hopefully a few more people will come in as we get rolling here. Let's open with prayer. The Lord be with you. Lord, we welcome you into our midst today to discuss the many things going on here at Good Shepherd. We look to the future of building new connections within the congregation and also building connections with people who we don't yet know. We also look forward to making our facility more welcoming and more effective for good ministry in your name. We ask that you'll be with us. In the name of Jesus, amen. Okay, so we've got a few slides. I've got Cyndee and Ken who are going to do the bulk of the work, so I don't have to do too much today. But anyway, let's just get rolling. So what we're going to talk about is I'll do a few overall updates of things that have been going on. We're going to focus mostly on the building connections, programs, and projects. So Cyndee's going to give an overview of kind of what our priorities are and things like that. And Ken's going to go through the projects, both a couple that we've gotten completed already and the ones that we have on the schedule, so to speak. First, a little financial update. So at the very top, you can see this is all through Q1. We don't have the numbers officially in from Vicki yet through April, but through Q1, our income has been a little over $360,000, expenses about $343,000. So right now we're about $17,000 positive for the year. So that's good news. Total budget's a little under $1.5 million. I'm pretty sure we're running a little behind the income budget and also a little behind the expense budget. So both of those numbers are a little less than the original budget. The other thing which I always want to highlight is the endowment fund, and not that you need to know all of the individual funds that we have the money invested in, but basically a couple of years ago we started an endowment fund with essentially no money. Today we've got $222,000 in it. The purpose of the fund is to be a perpetual fund, mostly focused on scholarships, but not totally. Scholarships and grants, one of the things that the fund was able to do last year was fund a bunch of flood buckets, so it's not all scholarships for ministry, but that's one of the most important things. And last year, we were able to award $8,500 in scholarships and grants. The fund target is roughly to try to distribute its earnings, 4% or so every year and not diminish the balance of the fund. So I know the financial needs are always there, but this is a wonderful way to contribute to ongoing ministry, to encourage people to go into the ministry, and to do something that will really go on into perpetuity. The capital campaign finances, Cyndee's going to address a little bit later. So again, so far finances okay through Q1. A little update on the organist search. Interviews are occurring this month and next. We've got a committee that's focusing on this. Julie Peterson is the chair. Carol Davis, Greg Potter, Bill Steef, and Peter Schmidt and Pastor Dave. And of course, we want to thank Bill. Is he here? He was here a minute ago, but we really want to thank Bill for doing a great job kind of helping out while we look for a permanent person. And we've lined up a guest organist, Matt. I don't know Matt, but roughly once a month for the next 3 months or so. So, hopefully within a couple of months we'll have good news on a new organist. A few other building items. This is a little eye chart, I realize, but you may recall that in the fall of 2016, we replaced all of the lighting in the office area and the big AA room down at the end of the Ed Wing with LEDs. And we've seen significant savings both in money and, of course, in energy usage. But it's been kind of low-key, but we've been on the march, I'd use that term. We've been on the steady march throughout the entire Ed Wing. And right now, all of the preschool classrooms, all of the hallways, and the music room are now 100% LED. And in general, it takes these lights. Most of them were the old, what I call the old fat tubes, which run 40 watts apiece. The fixtures some of them had 4, some of them had 2. So we've reduced the electricity or the wattage rather, from either 160 watts per fixture, plus the ballast, so probably even more than 160. So we've reduced it from either 160 or 80 down to 30. So it's a dramatic savings in energy, And I would encourage you to just go down into the basically the right side of the Ed Wing if you want to look in a couple of those rooms. Those are all LEDs now. And even if you can't tell what it was like before, the lighting is just far better. It's much brighter, it's nicer, in addition to be energy saving. So, and about 3/4 of the upper level in the Ed Wing is now done. So we're pretty close to being, you know, 100% LED. We're close. We're not in here yet. We've got some work to do in here. But basically, in the Ed Wing and the office area, we're pretty close now. What's up next on the dock, and these are outside the capital campaign funds, by the way. This is just what we're doing out of our current budget. So next up is we want to replace and add emergency lightings. If you think about the stairwell that goes up to the office area, the lights in that hallway are all on battery backup. So if there's a power outage, those will turn on and run for about 90 minutes. But again, they are standard fluorescent tubes. So I've discovered some new technology LED tubes which have batteries built into them. So hopefully within the next month or so, we'll replace all of the ones in the stairwell. And then in the Ed Wing, there really aren't any emergency lights. There are lights which are on 24/7, but if the power goes out, it'll be dark. So we've got about 22 fixtures that we're going to be able to upgrade with these new generation tubes. Ken was kind enough to go to the city of Gaithersburg, the fire marshal, and basically say, hey, are these things okay? And he was enthusiastic about it. So that's next up. And then all of the lighting, mainly around the new part, but the new sanctuary here, those are all, again, those are 250 watt plus fixtures. We actually want to replace the entire fixture with LEDs, which should pull them down into the, probably around the 70 watt range, take them down from 250 to 70. So I just wanted to let you know that the lighting project of 2016 was not a one-time thing. We've been steadily moving to bring the whole facility kind of up to spec. We also had a special project which was kind of fun. One of the things that's been on the list for a while was to get rid of that old shed, which didn't have much in it and was an eyesore. And anyway, so the picture's a little tough to see. We're going to discuss that in a bit. It's basically these projectors really aren't very good. But anyway, that's a picture of empty space now where the shed used to be, and Ken's going to discuss what our plans are for that space as part of the capital campaign. And we also have a nice lattice fence around those kind of beastly HVAC power units on the side of the building. And both of those were scouting projects by Carl Stahlberg. So thank you, Carl, for doing all that. Those are only, I don't know, 2-3 weeks old. So I don't know if he's here, but you know, let's we didn't have to do too much work on that. All right, so with that, I'm going to turn things over to Cyndee.
Good morning. Can you hear me okay? Oh, good. I'm Cyndee Leahy. For those who don't know me, I was the general chair of the Capital Campaign Building Connections. It's actually a 3-year campaign. It starts this year. The pledging started this year, but as you'll see, we've had some generosity shown by this congregation, which has been just wonderful. First and foremost, we had a lot of things that we wanted to do with the capital campaign. It wasn't just Shepherd's Hall. I keep having to remind myself of that because I'm like, let's do Shepherd's Hall. I'm excited about Shepherd's Hall. But we have to be smart and plan well with our resources. If you recall, the one thing we did say was we are not taking on any more additional debt to do any of these projects. These are self-funded. So we have to be smart about how we schedule our money out. And we also have priorities from council. If you folks remember, we sent this brochure when the capital campaign kicked off, and there were 3 areas we were focused on. One was a new staff position to enhance our own family. The second was to give to our larger church, the Synod, and then the third was the enhancements of our facility. And so the priorities from council now are focusing on all 3 of those areas. We've decided to enhance, it's very important to enhance the welcoming. I don't know if you folks know this. I know when I first came to this church, I didn't even know where to enter the church. It was difficult. So now you'll see we have this awning. We know where to come in. The signage is bad. We're going to replace signing, making it easier for people to find our church. We also want to focus on improving the effectiveness of our ministry area. And what we decided to do first as church council was start with the education wing. This was a smaller area to bite off, financially fit into our planning, and time-wise, we are going to be able to do this now we can start the project at the end of the school year and finish it up before Bible school. So time-wise, that is fitting very nicely into our schedule. We completed the must-haves. God kind of took care of the fence and blew it over, so that had to be done. So some of those things we had to do right away. And then Shepherd's Hall, it is a priority. Starting in the fall, you're going to start to see the plans. We're going to do those small group gatherings. If any of you had an opportunity to do some of those small group gatherings last fall, we're going to do those again this year. We're hoping to roll out the plans for Shepherd's Hall at those small groups so people will have a say and you all get your input. And so that's kind of where we're headed for this year. Once again, our pledges supported 3 areas. I'm very happy to say that our new staff position, we are ready to start interviewing for our new membership and connection coordinator, which is going to strengthen our connections. As you know, our goal is 100 new members per year for a total of 300 in 3 years. That represents 1/10 of our synod's goal for the entire synod. So we're taking on a big outreach to our community, and it's very important that not only do we get members here, but that we support them and they become part of our family, and this new position will help us do that. Moving on to support of our synod, which I just mentioned, not only are we committed to 100 new members, but we also do give a portion of what we've pledged to our synod to support the greater church. And then lastly, the facility improvements, which Ken is really going to get more into as he speaks. Our capital campaign goal was $1.5 million, and we have pledged to date $1.2 million. Now, as a retired professional salesperson, I missed my quota, so this was slightly disappointing to me. I am hoping that with the new memberships coming in, that over the next 3 years, we do reach our $1.5 million goal. I think that's it would be good to reach our goal so that we can do all the things that we had planned to do with this money. I am pleased to say that the new members who have come on board, especially last year, have been very enthusiastic and have shown their enthusiasm with gifts to this campaign. So I thank everyone for their gifts, but especially the new members, because that's very touching. And then you can see how we've dispersed the funds. 75% goes to the facilities, and the other 25% is split between our new staff position and our tithe to the synod. So far, we spent $11,000, and I think, Ken, you can address. I think that went mostly to the fence and some architecture things so far. So that's all we've been out of pocket to date. No, it doesn't. I don't have the updated quarterlies from Vicki yet. Okay, so I'm sorry, the fence was $25,000. I don't have the updated quarterly from Vicki. So the other thing is, everybody should have received this update in the mail. It's a quarterly update. I will be sending quarterly updates every quarter, and I will include financials in the next one. I heard from a lot of people they would like to see the financials included in the quarterly update, so I will be doing that in the next update to the congregation. Also, if you ever have questions, feel free, my phone, my email, feel free to call. We are happy to answer any questions. I think we are so involved in the projects, we are here every week, that we forget that a lot of you aren't, and we need to be better at communicating what we're doing to you. Yes, sir. Yes. It's actually, it's more like, it's not quite 10%, it's more like 3 or 4, the exact numbers. It's not 10%, but it's just specifically out of what was pledged to the Building Connections. Okay, it's 10% of the 25%. The total received, of the total capital campaign monies received, if you consider that 100%, 75% of those funds are allocated to facility. And then of the remaining 25%, 10% of that goes to the synod, and 90% goes to local, good shepherd. Thank you. Thank you. Yes? Part-time.
Okay, and are we guaranteeing 1 year, 2 years? We hope that it'll be an ongoing position?
Yes, we hope it will be a permanent position. Yes, thank you. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am. I'm so sorry. Okay, the two questions. One, Gary wanted to know, did you hear the question about the amount? Okay. Gary asked if the amount that we're giving to the Synod is in addition to what we give out of our regular budget, and yes, it is. The amount we give to the Synod from the Building Connections campaign is separate from what we give. And Carolyn wanted to know if the new position, the new staff position was full-time or part-time. It is part-time. She also wanted to know if it was our intent to have that be a permanent position, and the answer is yes, it is our intent to have that permanent. Thank you for having me do that. Okay, I would like to introduce the building committee. The building committee was formed several months ago, and we've been incredibly busy. The busiest of all is Ken Wagner, who is our general chair. If you are here and on the building committee, when I call your name, could you stand and stay standing? First is Ken Wagner, our general chair. Pastor Dave, our senior pastor. Bill Simmelink, our council president. Judge Staley, he's a member of choir. I think his eye is healing right now. Lee Miller, is he here? Lee, thank you. Vicki Schmidt, and myself. All of us are available for questions, comments, whatever. So please, I wanted to introduce this team so you know who we are, and if you have anything you want to ask or, please reach out to any of us, okay? We meet the second Tuesday of every month. Thank you. Okay, so what we've done to date, you've seen the replacement of the fence, you've seen the new awning over the main entrance. We have our architecture designs for our new classrooms, and we are starting the architecture designs for Shepherd's Hall. So when we talk about the specifics, I'm going to turn this over to Ken. I want to tell you one thing about Ken Wagner. This man works incredibly hard. I think he knows everybody on the city council now in Gaithersburg. He's done a phenomenal job. If you get a chance, please give Ken your thanks, because he's really doing a great job for this church. Thank you.
Well, I don't know about the council, but the planning group I certainly know. Yep, I'm Ken Wagner. First I wanted to say there was once a Lutheran pastor, a doctor, and a project manager. And they were preparing to play golf. They were setting up for a round of golf. And they were trying to get to the first tee. And they couldn't get to that first tee. So the project manager says, "Here comes the groundskeeper. I know him from when we repaired the clubhouse last year from the fire." So he asked the groundskeeper, "What's wrong with this group of people with the first tee?" And he said, "Oh, well, those are 3 firefighters that went blind from fighting the fire at the clubhouse last year." And the doctor said, "Oh, I've got to call my colleagues to see if there's something I can do." The Lutheran pastor said, "I got to call and get them on the prayer chain." And the project manager says, "Wait a minute, can't they play at night?" All right, so with that in mind, as you know, you've seen the new fence. We went out to bid for the new fence, and we came back with, I had estimated the cost of the materials was right at $14,000. And we had 2 bids come in at $15,000 and $16,000, and we said, okay, these people obviously aren't going to be able to do a good job, because if the materials are that much, what's their labor going to be like? And then we had 2 bids that came in. Believe it or not, they were $67 apart, okay, from 2 professional fence companies. And so basically I did my research. I come down to the Better Business Bureau. I checked all the reviews for them, and it came down to the numbers. Out of those 2 bidders, which was the lowest, and it was Frederick Fence from Frederick. And they committed to having the fence done before Easter, as I had requested, and they did an absolutely superb job, I thought. And everybody just loved the crew that was out here too, talking with them and everything. Now, one of the things you may have noticed is the fence ended just before the old shed down here. Well, I had them stop there because if I'd have had them build the fence the rest of the way, well, maybe the demolition of the old shed may have damaged the fence or something like that. But once the shed was gone, we are planning to put a dumpster corral right down there in that corner. And I was thinking that maybe, depending on how we design it, we'd incorporate the existing fence into the dumpster corral. Well, that's what the thought process was. So Frederick Fence is holding some of the materials for our fence so that when we get ready to finish it, they'll be ready to come in and finish the fence all the way to the property line and do the fence around the garbage corral, which I'll talk about a little more later. The awning, same thing. We went out to bid. We ended up having 2 bidders come in on this one, and they were both very close. Again, the same type of Better Business and all that. It came basically down to the personality of the person that we wanted to deal with. And so the company we selected, the guy was very nice and very cordial and very accommodating and everything. Again, committing to being able to get it done before Easter if I could get the permits through the city. I'll give you an example of dealing with the city of Gaithersburg. The permits for the awning, by the way, the awning was $4,200. Okay? It was $480 for permits for the awning. The fence, overall, round numbers, just under $25,000. It was $100 for the permit. One of the things that we wanted to try to do with some of this capital money is the sanctuary projectors. As you've seen with some of the videos and the pictures that we have showing in here, these projectors are rather old. They're antiquated. They're what I used when I was a college professor, 15 years ago. So we've done some research, and Philip's done most of the work on this, along with Bill. And we've come up with, we've viewed the demonstration of a couple of different types of new projectors. And so one of the things that we want to try to get done is, and we're still in the research of this, is putting in high definition projectors in here. And we're probably going to go, I'm guessing, with the laser ones because they're instant on, instant off. And the quality is absolutely incredible, okay? You think about your 4K TV, well, this would be like 8K, okay? They're really good. Along with the new projectors, there's going to be some audio upgrades for sound, et cetera, and being able to do live streaming and things like that. And part of this whole thing would also include a complete overhaul of the sound system in Shepherd's Hall, which we will incorporate along with the physical upgrades to Shepherd's Hall, which I'll talk about. Education wing. Okay. After the fence and after the awning, I jumped right into trying to get the education wing upgrades done. And now the education upgrade or revitalization or renovation incorporates several pieces of scope that the council had established as things they wanted to get done. One includes the music room, the fireside room. We're going to be taking up that carpeting, putting tile down, taking the paper off the wall, painting, putting new ceiling tiles in. As a general scope, that's what we're doing to the whole education wing. Redoing the ceilings, redoing the tile. The carpeting in rooms 206 and 204 will be removed and new carpet put in. A new pantry cabinets, kitchen cabinets, and countertops will be put in there. We'll be doing Corian countertops. Minor, very, very minor electrical work. We're going to be taking out the wall between 200 and 202 and putting in a portable partition wall that's lockable. We're going to take out the wall between 205 and 207 to make a bigger classroom there. There's going to be a Dutch door on the nursery. We're going to convert the single men's room in the old wing to a janitorial closet. And kind of the reasoning behind that is that the janitor's closet that's over next to Shepherd's Hall will probably go away when we do the Shepherd's Hall. And so that'll become a janitor's closet. The women's room would become a unisex one. In the men's room, in the lobby area outside Shepherd's Hall, we're going to put a wall inside the men's room and a door in the hallway to allow for a new storage area, because we needed some more additional storage. In the ladies' room, where there is kind of that vanity mirror and countertop, there's going to be a wall, a partition put up there, and we're going to cut a doorway, not put a door, but a doorway into the hallway, and that's going to become a cloakroom. So we're not going to have the portable coat racks anymore, okay? So that's pretty much, in the stairwells will all be painted, and new treads and tile on the floors of the stairwells. So that's the major scope that's going to be happening in the education wing. Now, my estimates on this is going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of $100,000 to $120,000. And I'm still waiting on the bids to come in. The bidding for this closes Friday at 4 o'clock this coming Friday is when the bids close on that. And so once I have all those bids in, then I'll get with the committee again, and then we'll decide on what the right course of action is to take with that. And we'll see where we are with my estimates on that. Okay, this is what it will look like when we're done. I know that's kind of an eye chart, but this is what the basic floor plan will be when we're done. You'll see an extra closet there in the men's room, or in the hallway at the men's room, and then you'll in the coat room for the ladies' room. The portable partition wall is easily seen in 200 to 202, and then the wall is gone between 205 and 207. Now, one of the things that we have to do is we actually have to move the door in 207. There's some code rules about egress and everything else that we have to deal with. So the measurement between one door handle and the other door handle in the same room has to be greater than 1/2 the diagonal distance across the room. So that's why we have to move the door. Okay, this is a concept drawing of the dumpster area. The area down there, does this have a laser on it? Yes. Oh, it does. Cool. Anyway, on the bottom side there is where one parking space, oh, there we go. Yeah, that's one parking space, and the other parking space is over there. So if we put the dumpster corral diagonal, then the truck will be able to get right in there and get the dumpsters and pull right out. Now, here's one of the problems we have to face, and again, this is working with the city planners over there, is one of the things we have to do is we have 94 parking spaces, okay? Based on the size of this room and the number of chairs and the number of people we would have here in a single service, we're supposed to have 114, but we only have 94. How do we do that? Well, we have an agreement with Walnut Hill over here to have 20 spaces on Sundays. Believe it or not, there is a letter of agreement, okay, that we have, and that's why the city planners gave us a waiver to only have 94 parking places on this piece of property. So we cannot lose any parking spaces by putting in the garbage corral or the dumpster corral, okay? So my plan in working with the city is that I will put up no parking signs Monday through Friday so that I can make sure a garbage truck can get in there. So so clear parking can be taking place on Sundays with no problem. Okay. Signage. Signage was another one of the priorities assigned to us by the council. Okay, exterior signage. And we went out to a sign company and said, give us a concept idea here. This is what we have as a vision. And this came back from Creative Edge. And we all loved this. We thought they hit the nail on the head when they come up with this, because it looks great. It has the same, it's kind of washed out because these aren't HD projectors, by the way. Okay? It has the same brick structure and everything associated with that's the same as the church, but that electronic sign can be programmed from the office up here. Now, the plan is that we will have two of these signs. One will be out here on this corner so that it can be seen coming north on Frederick, and there'll be a smaller version of this, probably half size, on the north end so that at the entrance of our parking area down here. Now, the nice thing about these programmable signs are we can share some of the space or the programming with the preschool downstairs, and we can have them change with the season and events, special events and things like that. Now, we're not going to be showing videos on these things, but, okay? All right. So, some of the other things that we're going to be doing in Shepherd's Hall. Now, I know Shepherd's Hall is a very high priority for a lot of people. So it was, well, my intention along with the committee that we do it right, okay? The renovation of the education wing was a fairly easy thing to plan and get moving. The hard part is getting contractors that's willing to do it on such short notice. Okay, so one of the things we want to do is improve the sound quality of Shepherd's Hall without interfering with the architectural structure of Shepherd's Hall. We want to make sure all of the stained glass windows are visible, so our architects are taking that into consideration. We need to get better storage. We need to install new lighting so that it comes down below the hanging baffles. We want a new floor system in there so that it's easier to maintain and less maintenance. And then again, the audio system upgrade. And we're going to change the orientation from looking at the big stained glass to the wall that's toward the hallway to get a better orientation and better use of the space, because then we can maximize the space all the way back to where the east wall is. And we're going to add some storage, which will incorporate the mezzanine and the storage area that's under the mezzanine, and put a small set of stairs to be able to get access to the mezzanine a little better. That's one of the reasons we built the extra storage in out of the men's room on the education wing project, because we're going to want to incorporate some of the storage area that we're going to be taking away from that area to there. We got some other things we're working on too. The estimated cost that I'm, depending on which type of floor we go with. Now, this floor up here, this is a type of terrazzo, okay? It's a pebbled terrazzo. But if you've ever been to an Apple store, or you've been to any of the major museums in the city, the floors when you go into those places are called terrazzo. All right, they last forever, okay, but they're expensive. And if we put that in 20 years or 30 years or 40 years, that floor is going to look the same, okay? But if we put in a tile in 15 years, 15 to 20 years, depending on the tile, we're probably going to want to change it again. At dollar cost averaging 15 years from now or 20 years from now, what's it going to cost to do that job then? So if we take a look at that, depending on the cost of the floor and what type of floor we decide to go with, I'm estimating the cost of Shepherd's Hall to be somewhere between $125,000 and $150,000. Now, based on these numbers, if you can go to my next slide, please. Thank you. Okay. As you can see, this is the time phase project line that I put together and with Bill's help. And we were saying these are the things we want to do in 2018 and what we want to get done in 2019 and 2020. Okay? Right now, we're in the planning phase of Shepherd's Hall, but the actual construction of Shepherd's Hall will take place mid-2019. Now, the reason of that is I want to try and get the RFP, the request for proposals, out by the end of October this year so we can get more and better contractors lined up to bid on this project in their time frame for next summer's work. Now, most of the people that can do this work are going to be doing schools in the summertime. That's why we're having a hard time getting enough contractors to bid on the education wing, is because they're already booked for the summer. All right, the other projects that you can see there is exterior signage. Again, those arrows may move from one year to the next based on income, because like Kathy said, we don't want to go into any debt. If we get these estimates in of how much these are going to cost and we have the funds ready to go this year, we'll go with these projects. I'm Cyndee, I'm sorry. Thank you. Cyndee. Thank you. What did I say? Anyway, that's all right. Okay, so that's the way the projects are going, and you can see the timeline on that. Okay? Any questions for me? Over here. Yes?
Can you clarify about the changing of the orientation of Shepherd's Hall?
Click.
The orientation of Shepherd's Hall is now going to be to the west. Does that mean when we are in there, seating, we will be facing the west wall?
Yes.
And our backs will be to the stained glass?
Well, your right side will be to the big stained glass, but the big stained glass will still be visible, you know.
Not having a small altar area?
Correct. The small altar area will go away, and the orientation of the room for lecture and speaker purposes will be toward the west wall, yes. That's the plan right now. You know,
I find that disappointing that I would have a beautiful stained glass to my back. No, the big one would be to my side, but all the individual ones, the long narrow ones would be to my back.
yes.
Certainly something that's still TBD. My understanding of that room is that the original orientation of the room was to be to that side wall, which seems very odd to me, having never worshiped in that space, that you wouldn't be facing. But as we look at how do we improve the acoustics of that room, for lecture times, that's really one of the primary ways that we can so that every space is equal. Because if you're facing the beautiful stained glass, you have a lot of unequal bouncing happening with the acoustics. Yeah. So for classroom things, we would be looking at reorienting the room. With that understood, my understanding is that for small memorial services, chapel events, things like that, it wouldn't preclude us from worshiping in that direction. That we'll still be able to retain it as a space that we can worship. We just know that we'll lose a little bit in acoustics anytime you turn from that sidewall, which was originally by the architecture's design, the way that we were supposed to worship.
And is there going to be a design for that wall? Because right now it's pretty ugly.
Yes.
One more thing, Kelly, we also have discussions about having a mobile altar so that we can move that in and out as we need to worship in that space or not. So that what he was saying, we could put the altar back more in the middle and decide how we wanted to do that. So that is one of the things that we are.
Yeah.
But
for instance, one of the main uses of that space is for Pastor Ted's class. And that's an environment where we would certainly want it to be as equal as possible for hearing's sake. And then that we would have ways to reuse it in the way that we're so used to using it.
And her other question was, are we going to do something with that wall because that wall's kind of ugly? Well, yes.
The whole room's kind of ugly. We'll fix that.
But we're not going to paint the brick. Yes.
Marcus?
So, on the electronic signing that you're talking about, it looks like a really good idea. I have one worry, and that is how often that signage can end up showing the Windows logo, because the computer's rebooting it inside, or what maintenance and things like that cost on electronic, how often, have we looked at other people's installations of those?
Well, they don't use a Windows software.
But still, we know about maintenance, how often it needs to, what it will cost if the display dies, I love the idea of a dynamic display. You want to make sure that it's presenting our best side and not down half the time.
Well, I checked with the city guys about the one that's over at Boyner Park, and they've never had to do anything to it since it's been put in.
And this is the same manufacturer. That's kind of what I'm looking for, but we've seen them working.
Yeah, I've looked into the quality and the longevity of these pieces of equipment, and they're pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah, they're all LED driven, so they're really, really good.
Ms.
Yes.
Sandra? The question is water damage in the stairwell. Is this back stairwell included in any of the
This one in the new section? No.
That's on the list of big inmate. It's a drainage problem we're trying to figure out. It's not part of the campaign.
So the question was, is the staircase included in the capital campaign? The answer is no, but we're working on that out of regular budgeting funds with Bill and Vicki.
Yeah, yes, back there.
Has there been any consideration in the Shepherd's Hall of improving lighting for the small stained glass windows, which are basically in shadow almost all the time?
Actually, I have actually looked into that as part of the new lighting upgrade. When I talk with the architect and everything about what we're going to do electrically in there. So yes, that is on my list. Just like I've had another request for putting handrails right here for the choir. But the big problem there is they ask for them to be removable. That's hard. So I'm still working on that one. But yes, lighting is definitely a huge issue, especially for me in that room. And when we figure out exactly what we want to do for the acoustic baffling that will hang from the ceilings, then because we don't want to disturb the ceilings, then when we do the lighting, that'll be part of it. Any other questions? Yes.
This would be a small question that wouldn't affect a lot of us, but in changing that clean area in the women's bathroom with the mirror, that when there is a wedding party, if you're getting dressed, they no longer have a clean area with access to the bathroom. Is there any plan about how do you accommodate the brides and the bridal party trying to get ready without having to walk all over the church?
That wasn't a situation that was given to us, so I don't know the answer to that.
Julie?
Okay,
I,
look,
I see Julie ready to respond.
We don't use it anymore. Traditionally, the nursery is the one that's been used because there's a little bathroom off the nursery.
oh, there we go. We got a solution.
And in,
Problem solved.
in my experience, 95% of bridal parties come 95% or 100% ready. It used to be the practice that you would come to the church and get ready. In my 5 years of ministry, that hardly ever happens. Brides and bridal parties come ready, and they really just need a private area to wait. And so if we improve the classrooms and the nursery, they'll have a much nicer area to wait.
Yes.
We have time for about 2 more questions, and then we need to clear so that we're ready for...
Okay.
I just was curious whether an automatic door opener for the ladies' room is a possibility.
For the ladies' room, yes, it's a possibility. And they,
Very difficult to get in if you have to use that.
yeah,
The question was is an automatic door opener for the women's room a possibility? I'm sorry but people can't
Yeah.
hear in the back.
both of them. Yeah, both of them. The answer is yes, but we've also looked into automatic door openers for the front doors. Okay. The estimates came in for the one door inside and one door outside on the front doors to be able to get in using the handicap button was 20 grand. So you're looking at $10,000 per door. And so I got that on my little list of things, and I'll add the men and women's room to it because I think we can do that for less. But I will add that to my list of things to see if we have any money left over to be able to do those projects. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Oh, good question. Okay, good question.
Please repeat the question.
All right, the question is there any consideration for a handrail along the sidewalk or repair of the uneven sidewalk? No, but let me tell you what the plan or the idea is. I'm not going to say it's a plan yet, but it's an idea that we're looking into. At the same time we do the concrete work at the dumpster corral, one of the things we want to try to do is right in front of the main doors out here is cut part of the front sidewalk at the front of the door to make that part of handicap accessible right at the front door rather than 25 or 30 feet away from the front door. Okay? That's one of the things we want to try to do in coordination with, because we'll have the same concrete people do with the dumpster corral that will do that. But I will look into the unevenness, since the question's been raised, the unevenness of sidewalk and see where that could be a problem, because safety is one of my biggest things. And if that is an issue, then I can include that in the scope when we do that. One more question.
When we built, just to comment on your changing at the front entrance here.
Yeah.
When we built this building, there was a ramp. They made us take it out because of the fear somebody on a wheelchair will roll back into the parking lot. They wanted that made. That's why you have the situation you have today.
Is that right?
They find that they've changed their mind by now.
Evidently, they've changed their minds. Because I've said that I wouldn't have any problem getting that permitted, so. Yeah, don't have that yet. Yeah, that knobby rubber stuff will be what's out there, yeah. Okay, yeah, closing prayer.
Well, I wanted to say a couple of things. Thank you, Cyndee. Thank you, Ken. And yeah, I mean, one of the things I learned from Ken is that a small thing that you don't know about, like we don't have enough parking places, you can't just go do what you want to do. There's things that pop up that you'd never suspect. The comments that were made, such as putting an automatic door opener on the women's bathroom, the railing along the side, those kind of things, we'll take those up and see what we can do, whether it's within the capital campaign budget or maybe some of these things like sidewalk repair are just part of the property. So thank you for bringing those to our attention, and we will not let that go. So with that, I'd like to ask Pastor Kate to adjourn us with prayer.
Let us pray. Gracious God, we give you thanks for this building, for the resources and the ministry that it brings to us and in our lives. We thank you for these people who have been working so hard to bring our vision to a completion. We ask that you would help us to continue to be people of welcome, people of hospitality, people who seek to make this a safe place for all who come to worship you here. Be with us as we continue our worship this morning. In your Son's name we pray. Amen.